So everything's heating up way earlier than normal this year. Normally we're not on the fields until the first week of May, and it's April and we're already getting started. So with the heat, we're getting busier now, so lots happening. I'll fill you in the video. It's unusually warm for March, and with all snow melting, we're taking advantage of the warm weather to check out the field tiles. We usually plant alfalfa and grass for half the roughage of our feed for the cows. The other half is corn silage. Alfalfa is great, but not great for everything. So the alfalfa is a really important part of the diet because it adds lots of protein to the ration. And that protein is homegrown, where if we don't get much protein in our roughages, then we have to buy in more ingredients. So it's the alfalfa and the grasses that provide most of the protein in the ration. It's also good for variety because it's a legume, and grasses and corn is also originally a grass. So the alfalfa adds a good variety to the diet. And then alfalfa is also really healthy for us to grow for the soil health because it has really deep tap roots. But then those tap roots can go so deep that they eventually get into our tiles and plug them. So that's actually what we're seeing here. This black guck, all stringy, those are the roots from the alfalfa plants. And we know we have a plug tile because when you're looking over the field, there's usually a patch that's staying wet while the rest of the field is nicely drying up during the heat, which is what we noticed over here. So we have our own excavator and we drive it out there and dig it up, and then we find the tile and cut out the section that's plugged. When we carefully pull that section out, then that little gutter that's left behind, we lay down a new set of tile. And we have to be really careful that that said tile is nice and flat because the whole tile system runs on gravity, so it's got to have the same slope. So it seems like quite a bother. Well, it is. And you might be wondering, why do we even bother to put the tiles in the first place? And we're actually pretty lucky here in Ontario in that we have very regular rainfall. But if we didn't have the fields tiled, then the fields would take so long to dry up in spring that we wouldn't have enough of a growing season left over to plant any significant crops. And then also, with the rainfalls during the year, if we didn't have the tiles, it would take so long for the water to drain through the soil or wash away that the crops would just drown. So all this water makes its way into progressively larger tiles until it eventually makes its way into the rivers and lakes. So aside from the deep tap roots, because it's a legume, they also fix nitrogen, so they add nitrogen back to the soil. So that's one of the benefits of dairy farming, is that you need to have hay in the crop rotation. So basically what happens, we have 3 years of hay, and we have corn silage and sometimes beans or wheat all in the crop rotation. And for those 3 years of hay, the soil isn't disturbed at all. And because of that, having that in the crop rotation, usually our organic matter creeps up every year. So I mentioned in the last video that I want to start tackling animal welfare, see if I can raise the standards, do things a little bit better than what's typically done. And I'll make a link in the description of that video. But basically, the plan is to raise some of our own beef, and then if I can build up a bit of a market for that beef from our own bull calves, and then there's enough demand, then eventually I'd love to start producing milk through that same brand. So I've been looking for a trailer, an old wagon really, so that we could convert it into a shelter for our pastured turkeys. Because I don't want to just have pastured steers, I also want to have a pastured turkey and also sell some other products along with them for my plan of basically starting a meat delivery company. And I found a neighbor actually who has an old wagon that he's not using, and he's willing to part with it for not too much money. So we're gonna head on over there, but it's got a flat tire. So I'm gonna go plug in our air compressor so that we can bring over a full tank of air, and then just pump it up a little bit so that we can still ride it home or pull it home.
So there's the tire. It's obviously very flat, and I get it all pumped up and bring it home. Hook the tractor up to the wagon, and I put the pin in there, but not quite good enough for driving on the road legally, so I hook up the chain as well. Safety first. So I'm quite happy with the trailer. It's got an awful lot of character. Decent shape too for the money that we pay for it. Speaking of character, saw this tree while we were over there. Kind of split in half and bent around in a little circle. It's pretty cool. And now we're on our way home. It's an old forage wagon, and obviously we're not going to be pulling any forage around, so this track along the floor we won't need, or either the conveyor and stuff out front or the hydraulic motors. So we're ripping all that stuff out. And I was hoping to keep like the walls and the roof and stuff, but unfortunately they're sitting up on top of this floor, and the floor has to go or else the turkeys can't get up into it. And while we're trying to get that project started, we also got our custom worker coming to plant our grass and alfalfa mix for this next year. We overseed that with barley, oats, and peas, just because the grass and alfalfa takes a little while to get started. That's what's going in here through this tote bag. So behind their tractor they have the seed drill, and then they have the wagon with the yellow hoppers on top which carries the seed. Behind that even they have these rollers just to make the whole field nice and flat and level. I'm pretty quick to call a custom worker or have somebody else drive the tractor for me, just because I'd much rather be in the barn with the animals.
We can do better, and we can all make it happen. By supporting this channel, subscribing, and sharing with friends, it makes a huge difference.